Welcome to the Builders Coach Show. It's been another frantic week here. Lots to cover off with you guys. We'll get straight into it. Jess is back from Belgium. How are you, Jess? And how was your trip?
Yeah, it was good. Thank you. It's good to be back. It's always good to travel and hit a bit of a refresh button. Yeah, it's still a little bit jet lagged, I think, but let's get into it. What do you have for us this week?
Okay, breaking news. Daniel, up in the Northern Rivers, Byron Bay area, won an MBA award. So, Daniel, shout out to you, mate. Congratulations. And interesting story. I was chatting to Daniel about work he's doing for some well-known people, like celebrities, if you like. And he was invited to a client's after project party. So he just finished the job and then they had like a party there at their property and he was a guest. And he ended up chatting to Pete Murray. He's a famous musician here in Australia. And he was just commenting how the guy's really down to earth and they had a great conversation. And the story doesn't end there. Daniel's brother actually works with a famous band here in Australia. And he was with his brother and this band in the green room about 2 weeks later. And who walks in? Pete Murray. Coincidentally. And this guy immediately recognized Dan and he was like, hey, what are you doing here? And they got chatting again. And like Dan jokingly said, you know, you meet someone 3 times, they become a friend. But the thing I want to get across here, guys, is celebrity within marketing is really, really powerful. So my advice to Daniel was to really ask this guy, Pete, the next time he saw him or when they catch up again, if you could do him a favor. I said to Daniel, next time you see Pete, you've got to ask him a favor and say to him, look, is there anyone you know who could benefit from working with me? So he's obviously seen the work that Daniel does because he was at that handover party, if you like. And I know from my experience, people who are well-known, celebrities, they want to help, right? Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people have a negative belief around successful or famous people. They think they're evil or they made their money the wrong way or by climbing over people. It's not the case. It's lonely at the top. And a high percentage, from my experience, of successful people want to help other people up. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And a lot of the time, they might think that you're busy. All right, so they're not going to want to refer friends and family over to you because they'll assume that you're really, really busy. But if you ask and say, hey, is anyone that you know who could benefit from working with me? I'd love to send them across. And that should have the floodgates open.
That's an awesome story. Congrats again to Daniel up in Byron Bay. And I'm really excited because we have a project coming up with him soon also.
Yes, absolutely.
Some investment. So yeah, that's really cool. Great
surf spot up there as well. Lennox Head. Love it. So moving on, something else I want to talk about today is risk mitigation. Okay, so a lot of people hear us talking about 7-figure club, and that's what we're most known for now. Builders come to us wanting to get into the illustrious 7-figure club, net $1 million over a 12-month period after all expenses, including wages, but before tax. And then you've got a tax problem. I always say my job is to give you a tax problem. The way to offset the tax is to set up a development arm. So we've got a development workshop coming up soon. We'll talk about that in a sec. But besides optimizing profit, workflow, cash flow, it's very important to recognize that success in business is also about risk mitigation. So you've got to shut the back door, so to speak, and make sure that you qualify your clients. I mean, I've got endless stories about guys getting involved with the wrong client. And the worst type of client, by the way, is not the one that you can see coming who's going to be toxic. It's the one that you don't see coming, right? Someone who builds great rapport, loves you like a brother, and then you're pulling a dagger out your back. So those are the most dangerous people. There's qualifying clients. If you're doing big architectural builds, you can just Google the guy's name and the word litigation, and you can see whether they have a trail of litigation behind them. But the other areas would be health and safety, making sure you've got all your documentation up to date, and then just basic things like insurance as well. When you're successful, when you're making good money, that's when you are at your most vulnerable, and the last thing you want to do is leave the back door open, so to speak.
Yeah. Didn't you have a book recommendation about that, actually?
Yeah, I did. So this relates to what I was talking about, like working with wrong people, toxic clients. There's a great book by a guy called Robert Ringer. So Robert and then Ringer, R-I-N-G-E-R. And the book is called To Be or Not to Be Intimidated, or Winning Through Intimidation. He's written a couple of versions of this book. It's an old book, but it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. He goes through the different stereotypes of people that you can deal with and how to protect yourself, most importantly, against these people. Because I don't have to tell you, one toxic client can wreak havoc in your business.
Moving on, I want to talk about quotes specifically.
Yeah.
And do you have any recommendation or what are your thoughts on quote templates?
So when it comes to a quote template, it is really important that it is laid out in a professional way, a good format, lots of detail and comprehensive, and really highlights what's important to the client. I always maintain that through the sales process, you need to be looking for the emotional hot buttons. So for example, there may be people who entertain. So they're extroverted, they have lots of people around, and they're fixated or very excited about the indoor-outdoor entertainment area, that space. So what you want to do is pour petrol on the fire, if you like. Give them ideas, give them inspo. You can even gather photos, but also let them know that you've handpicked the best trades in the industry in your area to work on that particular entertainment area. Get them really excited about it and elevate their emotion around that. On the negative front, maybe they've built before and they've had a bad experience with cost blowouts or delays. And then from that perspective, you can help, ease some of their anxiety by showing them your job scheduling tool. Show them that you have sign-offs for different stages of the job that involve both them and the supervisors. You have a 742-point quality assurance checklist that gives them a lot of confidence that you are going to, program the job well and deliver it well within the timelines and within the budget as well. But look for those emotional hot buttons. Ask the questions. Draw it out. I had a great question that one of my builders asked in a meeting with an architect and a huge client. This client was close to billionaires, worth about $700 million. And this young builder went in and he said to this guy, at the end of this job, when we finish up, what would have to have happened for you to want to refer me to everyone on your Rolodex?
That's a good question.
And this guy, just went for 25 minutes. Him and his wife, by the way, the client, just poured out everything that he wanted to have happen on the project. And this young builder was just taking notes. They walked away, him and the architect was like, wow, where did you get that question from? But that's a great open-ended question that'll help you draw out the emotional hot button. So you want to put that in there. You want to communicate that during the sales process. Obviously, there's multiple touch points through the sales process where you can draw out and then feed back and communicate to the client that you understand them. So when you submit your quote, yes, there needs to be the numbers. The numbers need to be accurate, but also include those emotional hot buttons. Make sure that you make them feel understood, and ideally make them feel more understood than they ever have before in their life. Because let's face it, we all feel misunderstood at times, right? So that's really, really important. But here's the thing. Quote template is you want it to be professional, presentable, and you want to have a generic template for you guys that charge for quotes. And you should all be charging for quotes. If you're not, then why the hell not? But when you turn up at a site visit and you present a cost analysis solution, so you're going to charge them for a quote, you're going to get the numbers watertight. You need to show them an example of a quote that you've done. So have a generic quote template there. The thing to recognize, guys, is that when you submit the numbers, all right, this is important. So going back to someone who's got a 67-page quote template, because most of you think that when you submit the numbers, when you present that quote, whether it's in person or you send it through to people via email, that's when they make the decision. It's not. 99 out of 100 people have already made the decision on who the builder is they're going to work with by the time you send them the numbers or present the quote. Okay? So yes, it needs to look presentable, but that is not going to be the document that gets them to make a decision on whether they work with you or not. That happens a long time before that, right? The heavy lifting gets done during the sales process and in many cases prior to the sales process, right? So marketing is selling in advance. And if you've got good education-based marketing processes where you're sending out video content, whether that guy's doing like a mini video series that goes out that educates people, if you do that well, then people will buy or fall in love with what you do, which, by the way, is the outcome you want to strive for with your marketing. Get people to fall in love with what you do, and then they make a decision to work with you before they even come into your sales process. So hopefully you've had that happen before, right? You've probably had a referral where someone came to you and they said, hey, you booked my brother-in-law's house. They've told us we'd have rocks in our head to work with anyone else. We want to work with you. Boom, here's our budget. Okay, that's a negotiated tender or what we call a one-horse race. So just bear in mind that quote template is important, but it's not going to be the thing that gets you the job. It's not going to be the clincher.
Yeah, basically you've built this relationship with your client prior to submitting your quote, so you already know where you're at. Yeah,
the relationships in life, right, are key. They are paramount to success in life, both business and personally. So you're building that relationship, and again, really drawing out what's important to them, feeding that back, and then tailoring a solution to their specific needs. So they're like, that'd be crazy to go anywhere else.
You also just mentioned the sales process. To anyone out there who hasn't got it yet and is interested in getting the 6-step sales process that you've defined, we've got that document available. Just send us an email, sales process at info@builderscoach.com.au, and we'll send that through to you.
It's a great place to start, by the way. Sales process. Sales is the biggest inefficiency in this industry. Just think how many hours you spent. Just think the last 12 months. How many hours have you spent speaking to people or driving out to see people and meeting with them who never were ever going to become a client? Work that out over 12 months. It's probably a month or 2 months of your time gone. Putting a good sales process in place and having a consistent process you take everyone through is going to save you hundreds of hours. You can then take that time and invest it in other areas of the business. So I was chatting to one of my younger builders recently who's he's new in his coaching program, just started out, and he's putting some changes in place, which are taking him out of his comfort zone, right? He's having to understand the financials, job codes, cost codes, how to price the work so that it's, the margin's in the right place and he's going to be profitable. And then there's, the job programming, it's understanding the sales process, how to communicate with clients, marketing, defining his niche. So he's getting all these things in place, but there's a lot of uncertainty because he's covering new ground with a lot of these things. But I'm excited for him because he's new to the coaching program, but also to business, and he's putting best practice processes in place from the outset. So the way I described to him, it's like he's got a clean, flat block, and he's building on that. He's laying the slab, and then he's building, and it's an easy build. And he's not going to know any different. Like, he's going to be using best practice pricing, best practice sales. He's going to be charging for quotes, outsourcing that to one of the best estimators in the country. And that's just going to be standard practice for him, which is very different to a lot of guys that come to me that are later in their career that want to make wholesale changes. They've got to uproot all these substandard systems they're using, processes, and also mindset, which is a big part of success, right?
Yeah, unlearning all the bad habits and building new ones, basically.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I think Bruce Lee used to talk about that, right? He's saying you got to empty your cup before I can fill that cup up. So you've got to unlearn all the things that that no longer serve you, which, by the way, is relevant to all of us, like ourselves included, right? With the way the world is changing so rapidly, you got to keep unlearning stuff, keep letting go of old practices to make way for best practice.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I finished up saying to this guy, like, you're out of your comfort zone now, it's still new. Eventually you would have taken, 15 people through your sales process. It's going to become very comfortable. You're going to be very proficient at using it. You're going to come across professional, organized, process-driven, which is great for your clients. But you've got to keep getting out of your comfort zone. As a leader of your business, you got to keep being comfortable, being uncomfortable. All right. As the leader of your business, you got to keep getting out of your comfort zone until you become comfortable being uncomfortable. And this guy was looking back at me like, what are you talking about? Surely there's going to be a point where it's all comfortable and I can just relax a little. And the reality is you can't. What is going to happen is you eventually get used to being uncomfortable and actually seek out that feeling of being uncomfortable. It's a bit like in sport. If you ever felt those nerves just before the whistle blows on game day, that's the thing that professional athletes miss. They miss the nerves and the tension and the pressure that comes with, a big race or a big day. And you can create that, manufacture that in your business by constantly looking for new opportunities to raise the bar and keep your standards up at a certain level consistently, right? So Jess, you did a vision board recently. Tell us a bit about that and what is it exactly?
Yeah, sure. So I did my vision board, and it's a bit of a mix of professional and personal, right? A vision board is basically a board where you put images or affirmations that represents where you want to go, right? So it's defining your goals, but it's in a visual aspect.
Like a visual representation of your goals.
Yes, exactly that. I think a lot of people like vision boards, but actually doing it is maybe like a little bit trickier sometimes, or just, yeah. Anyway, I did it. A couple of things about that, by the way. One, you don't have to actually do it manually if you don't want to. Like you can actually do it online via Canva. It's a very good tool. You can use all different pictures on there. And then I recommend printing it out and then just putting it somewhere you can see it every day.
Yeah.
Other thing, I personally bought these like little cards from Big W, and it was so easy. Just picking out all these cards and then just putting it on a board, basically. And it's not 100% perfect, but you know what? I think the learning in this is that just get started.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I think that applies to everything, right? Whether it's business, marketing, personal things, sometimes you just need to start. Like just start with the first step and then see where you get to. And you don't have to have the whole thing figured out. Like even if it's you just know what your next step is, and just start doing it, and then maybe you get in flow, and at least you've progressed, and you know what the next step is, etc. So that's my little recommendation. But yeah, I'm happy with it, and I can see it right here. So it's a good reminder of where I want to go.
Fantastic. It looks amazing, and I can relate to a lot of those things on your vision board.
Thanks.
It's a powerful tool because where focus goes, energy flows. And it's unbelievable how many people, when I ask them on day one in our coaching program, like, what do you want? Most of them start telling me about their problems. They tell me what they don't want. Like, they don't want to have cash flow problems. They don't want to have, these difficult clients. They don't want to be doing work that they don't like. And I'm like, hey, what do you want? And sometimes you can just get buried in so many problems and putting out so many fires, forget what it is that you want. So it's good to stop, get clarity. Focus is one of the most powerful things in business success. So get crystal clear on what you want. I think most people don't want to set goals and don't want to set big goals because of like all the obvious reasons. There's a fear of failure. They don't want to set a goal, don't achieve it. They feel bad about themselves. And then if they tell people about the goals and they don't achieve it, then they feel like a loser in front of family and friends. So it's easier to just not do anything. Okay. But that's a cop out. Like set some goals. Go after what you want, and you've got to believe that the universe is conspiring for your success. That's my belief. I believe that whatever happens, good or bad, if it's a good thing, great, move forward, take the win and move. If it's not the outcome you wanted, then the question is, what's the lesson? What did you learn from that? You win or you learn. It's a great philosophy for life. You spoke about quote templates. That when people submit a quote. Yeah. Now, I want to just touch on a mistake that some builders make, and that is to reveal their margin, to show their client how much profit they're making. Yeah. And every single time someone does, it's quite rare these days that someone is revealing their margin, but the reason they do it, or that they claim to do it, is so that they can build trust with their clients. So obviously, the whole purpose of your sales process and marketing is to build trust. The whole purpose behind being a specialist is you get credibility and trust by virtue of being a specialist. So yes, you want to build trust, but that is not the way to build trust, showing your margin, okay? And I was saying this to someone just the other day. It's like if you go buy a new BMW, all right? And then they say to you, oh, by the way, we make 45% margin on our engines. We make 27% margin on our wheels. And on the body, it's not as much, it's like 17% margin. If you go to Mercedes-Benz, you're going to start asking the question, well, what's your margin? How much are you guys making your engine? What are you making your wheels? What are you making on the body? So you're opening Pandora's box. You don't need to reveal your margin as a way to build trust. There's other ways to build trust. So really, your quote should be a detailed breakdown of what they get, the scope of works and everything involved. But there should just be one number at the bottom. You don't need to reveal margin to get your jobs over the line. Obviously, if you're doing a do and charge or cost plus, then you have to reveal margin. That's a different story. I'm a dead against that. I'd highly recommend that you move away from cost plus. It's got a bad reputation with the banks and with people in general. They'd rather go for easier jobs if you need to that are fixed price, and then you can get your margins up higher as well. The single most powerful marketing strategy for builders, networking with architects. That's the single most powerful thing. We've got a couple of guys doing that. Spoke to one of my Kiwi clients this morning, sent him the script that you can use, because some of you may have already, done what we call an architect blitz. I've got a list of architects and or designers, and we can even do it with real estate agents and engineers, and then call them and, teed up an appointment to meet with them, to collaborate and see if you guys can, send work each other's way. The best approach is for you to contact them with the view to build a team at the pre-construction phase, just like you build a team for the job delivery, right? Like your trade base, you've got your subcontractors, plumbers, roofers, tilers, electricians. You want to build a team at the front end. So the architect, designer, engineer, certifier, interior designer, to ensure that everything gets planned and done exceptionally well pre-construction. So you contact them with that in mind, just as you would if you're looking to expand your trade base. You know, you want to find out about them and their business, what sort of work they do, the quality of their documentation, the turnaround time. And then, you know, if there's a fit, which is essentially what you're trying to do, is there a fit for them and what you do? Do their standards match yours? And the higher your standards, the more you're going to have to seek out people, right? We live in a world of mediocrity. So if you've got really high standards and you consider yourself a peak performer, just recognize that that's rare. That if you're playing in the top 3%, you're going to need to seek out, you know, that 3 out of 100 people in that space. So when you approach them, it's with that in mind. But the script that I shared, I'll share with you guys now. I'll read it out. So this is when you call in an architect. You're phoning them, and you as the builder want to touch base. I wrote this for a builder who's working in a very high-end area, so in a suburb where there's a lot of money and there's a lot of work going on. As he's been going to his client's house, he's been seeing signs, and some of them have architects' details on. So what he's going to do is phone them, and he's going to say, hey, we've been doing some work in the area, and we saw your name on a sign, and I just wanted to connect. We're always looking to align ourselves with the right architects to ensure we deliver consistently high standard of documentation for our clients. And from my experience, the pre-construction phase is the most important part of the construction process to ensure on time, within budget job delivery. I'd love to meet with you at a time that suits you to find out more about you and your business and establish if there is a fit. Would you be open to that? Booyah. We've had guys use a script along these lines, from over a decade now. And one of the architects got a phone call from one of our younger builders, and he said to this guy, when the builder turned up for the meeting, by the way, you could do a Zoom meeting or you can do face-to-face. This builder turned up, and the architect said, it is so refreshing to have a builder contact me and want to find out more about me and my business, not just if I have any work for them.
Yeah.
So they don't get many calls, and when they do, it's often like, hey, have you got any work? Can we collaborate? That sort of thing.
That's it from us. Do you have anything else? What are the upcoming events?
Upcoming events, we've got another development workshop coming up. It's a 2-day workshop here in Sydney, 21st, 22nd of August. Watch this space. We haven't sent out the registration link yet, but that's coming. So watch the space. Perth, 20th of September. And then back in Sydney on the 18th of October for another event. So again, watch the space. Guys, if you are a builder who's outside of the area where we're running an event like for Perth, for example, you're welcome to attend. We've got guys coming from New Zealand, from the east coast of Australia, or anywhere else. Sometimes it's actually beneficial to get right out of your area, interact with some builders that are like-minded but non-competing, and it gives you that fresh perspective on your business. So just then you know it's open to everyone and anyone, regardless of where you're located in the world.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since we've been to Perth, right?
A long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So definitely looking forward to that one and to all the other ones. We'll be sending out information and registration link as soon as.
Absolutely.
And, I think that's it from us.
Watch the space. Have a fantastic rest of the week, guys. See you soon.
Bye.